Hi Jayden, welcome to NEXWEB podcast.
Thanks, Christy. It's a pleasure again to speak to you.
Jayden, on the last podcast, we talked about the meditation journey. Now I want to talk about your nomadic lifestyle. Like how long you have been in nomad journey?
Yeah, Christy. So I've been traveling around for about 5 or 6 months now. I left Australia to go to Nepal on the 1st of March, and it's now the 19th of August. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and I never thought that I'd come this far. Really, I was supposed to fly home, right? Um, I was supposed to fly home back to Australia and go back to my normal job. I had, a great job and everything in my hometown was going really smooth. And while I was in Nepal, it just became so clear to me that adventure was calling and to keep traveling. So, yeah, that's what I did. I remember what inspired me to keep traveling, right, was I knew that wanted to keep traveling. I knew that adventure was calling, but I just didn't know what to do or how to continue. I was a bit confused, right? And I remember walking down the streets of Nepal and I found this little cafe, right?
Yeah.
And run by a really nice Nepali man named Sam, and he had a nice little cafe. And on his bookshelf there was three books, and I picked one book up, and I'd never read it before. And the book was called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and
Okay.
that book really shifted and changed my life. It is an amazing book about adventure, about youth. Book inspired me to keep traveling, so here we are.
Okay, it was a random decision then, isn't
It
it?
was a random decision, Tristy. I had a plane ticket booked home. I was supposed to go back to my normal job, and so I cancelled my flight ticket. So I completely put my life on just 180 degrees, and I stayed in Nepal for 3 months, and then I made a decision that I booked a flight to Turkey, a one-way flight to Turkey, nowhere to stay, nowhere to go, just a flight to Turkey. And I thought, once we land, we'll figure it out. And yes, and that's how kind of the adventure took off from Nepal.
Like, were you alone in this journey, in nomad journey?
So I've been traveling alone, Sristy, the whole time, and it's been an incredible experience. Traveling alone really allows you to figure out who you are as a person. It There's no one here to make decisions for you. There's no one here to tell you where to go or what to do. There's no one here to say, if you make this decision, then oh, there's no one here to help. Well, there is, but you need to make the decisions. You need to be independent. It's your choice, and that's a really liberating thing. It's really great,
Yeah,
scary,
yeah.
and stressful as well. And being young, I think it's really beneficial to experience that choice, that independence. Um, so
Like I'm so shocked. Like it was a random decision, and you cancel that flight to Australia, and you, without knowing like where are you going to stay. Like you went to Turkey. Like have you done some research like where I'm going to stay? Like how I'm going to like move to different places because it was a first experience, right? In Nepal, I guess like you have some sort of family members where whom they could guide you,
yeah,
but in Turkey, like you were alone. Like how
yeah,
did you like get it?
yeah. So I think uh, there will always be negativity and there will always be doubt, either from yourself or from other people. Like I flew to Turkey just as the election was happening, so there was a lot of like internal turmoil. People saying, "Don't go to Turkey; it's going to be dangerous." Blah this, blah that, and I just thought, oh, I'm just going to go, and I took that risk, and when I got there, it was fine. Everything, like, it's always scarier in your own head. But I remember I got to the airport and I had slept 2 hours, and um, I remember getting there at 3:30 in the morning, and I, had no phone credit. I had nothing. I was quite, so I met these amazing Australian couple that were a mum and a dad, and we got in a cab and we drove from the Saw airport to Istanbul. And I remember just walking into this like really cheap hostel. It cost like I don't know, like €11. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like really tired. I knocked on the door and I was like, "Can I please stay here the night?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And and yeah, that was the beginning. It began quite tough. But then I had a good night's sleep, and then I woke up and it was a brand new day, and the adventure started, Tristy.
Now where are you?
Yeah, so I'm in France right now, Sristy. I'm in a beautiful town called Toulouse. I'm staying with a friend here, and yeah, France is an amazing country. It's beautiful, and yeah, I think what's important to know is that I've been able to travel through Europe with not much money, like, and I haven't been working either. So I think I've done 2 months in Europe with about 1,500 AUD. So
Yeah.
that's not a lot of money. It's probably like €600. Um, and so it's possible to travel. It's possible to take risks and see the world without much money. Like money shouldn't be a limitation. It helps, but it's not, you don't need a lot of money to travel. You don't need plans. You don't need things all set out in stone, and you don't need like essentially external stability. What's more important is internal stability. If you know what you want to do and you know that you can do it, do it. Take the risks. The best things that have happened in my life have been some of the risks that I've taken while traveling. I remember I hitchhiked across the whole of Germany in one day. People said Germany is incredibly hard to hitchhike across, and I remember I took a risk and I said, "Oh, I've never hitchhiked before, right?" And I thought, I just want to hitchhike. I want to try it. It's a risk. I don't know. I've seen it in movies. I'm like, it's got to be fun. I remember the first guy that picked me up, Phil. He picked me up in Germany and drove me 5 minutes down the road and dropped me off. And then I had to walk like another hour to get to this other service station. And then I got picked up by a beautiful lady. She drove me halfway across Germany. We had such an amazing time. So many laughs. I remember I was like, I was like rapping in the car to her, just being silly and stupid, right? Like, just you're allowed to be. You're by yourself. You can be anyone you want. And then um, I remember these young backpackers were in a van, and I was like, oh, I knew that I needed to take a risk, right? And so I thought I can either wait for another car to come, or I can walk up to these people and ask if they can drive me to Berlin. And so I took a risk and I walked up to them, and so be told, they took me and they drove me across Berlin. But not only that, they asked me if I knew Sticky Fingers, an Australian band, a famous Australian band called Sticky Fingers, and they were playing in Berlin that night. And they said, "Do you want a VIP free ticket to Sticky Fingers?" Um, and I said, "Sure, why not? Like, what are the odds?" And I think that was the universe saying, "When you take, you will be given much more." Yeah,
I just
but yeah, so I was able to. Yeah, it was epic.
wow, like Jayden, like 6 months. How many countries have you traveled? Like in this 6 months?
Yeah, there's been Nepal, Turkey, Germany, Switzerland, and France, Risty. And I'll be leaving to, so that's, how many is that? Five or six? And I'll be leaving to Morocco in about a week. And then from Morocco, I'm not quite sure. I think I might go back to Nepal and then India. Um, and yeah, see what happens.
Like, don't you want to return to that normal life, like a 9 to 5 job now?
At the moment, Tristy, not at the moment, like, I think the freedom of traveling, right? The freedom of being able to explore, especially like while you're young, like my mind has been broadened so much by seeing different cultures, by seeing different people, by like meeting amazing, beautiful people. Like working a 9 to 5 for me, it was so limiting. Like it was so, I was stuck in this environment. Like the people were amazing. Like I'm so grateful for my job. Like it doesn't have to be a bad job for you to want to leave. It's just there's so much more. It's human nature to want to expand, to want to see, to want to explore, right? And I have a really special workplace in Australia. Traveling opens your mind. It makes you see so much more. Like I've changed so much because I've seen, experienced so many different cultures, food, music, meditation, mountains, environment, nature, like all these things, like you get to experience while you're traveling, and it's liberating, Srishti, and I think it's very beneficial for anyone, really. Um,
You have such experience as a nomadic lifestyle. Like, what do you consider, what type of nomad you are? Like, are you a digital nomad, seasonal nomad? And what's the best part of having a nomadic lifestyle for you
yeah,
right now?
I wouldn't even know if I'd classify myself as a nomad, Tristy. Like, I'm just a young boy traveling the world with no plans and just taking risks. You can call that a nomad if you like. But for me, I'm definitely not a digital nomad. I'm not working and I haven't really worked. So I don't have an income, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you can travel without the limitation of money or the limitation of fear. Like, I need to work to travel or I need to get a job. Like, I've traveled with quite little money and I haven't worked for money. So, um, seasonal nomad, maybe. I remember I flew to Europe because it was summer, right? I definitely wouldn't have flown here in winter. So maybe you could say that's a bit of a seasonal nomad, but um, I've just been going with the flow, Tristy. I never would have thought I would have flew to Germany. I never would have thought I would have went to England. I never would have thought I would be here in France. It just kind of has unraveled itself, and it's all worked in perfect timing. I think that's one thing that is important while living a nomad life, or you want to travel, is to let go of the perfection, to let go of the control. And when you let go of needing to control where you're going or what you're doing or how you're going to earn money, beautiful things just happen to you. Things, good things happen to you because the universe favors the brave. And I really believe that while you're traveling, you you see that truth because you need bravery and courage to travel. Um, and I'd say the best part about living a nomadic life or a traveling life is the freedom, is what it teaches you. It's not necessarily freeing in the fact like you're walking around and you're like so free and you're so happy, but it's like you're experiencing new things, you're meeting new people, you're learning so much about yourself, which is so important because the freedom the freedom comes from within, what you learn about yourself, how you deal with situations, like how you deal with your own emotions when you're stressed. Like I remember one time I was at a train station in Germany and I had no idea what to do or where to go and I was so stressed and I'm like, oh my God, where do I go? I was having a freaking meltdown, right, in the middle of the train station because I needed to make a decision where to go. And there was no one there. My dad and all my family in Australia were asleep. And so I thought, I need to make a decision in the midst of this crisis that I'm going through internally. I needed to make a decision. And it's those moments, right, that when you do make a decision, doesn't matter where you go or what you do, you made the decision, you got through it. That's freedom for me. And obviously seeing the beautiful mountains, seeing nature, meeting great people. It's all part of it as well, Shristi.
Jayden, offline, you talked about like you are in a process of writing a book.
Mm,
Like, do you want to share like what sort of book you are writing and
mm.
like how long you have been in this process?
Yeah. So, that's another great thing about traveling, Srishti, is that it makes you realize things about yourself, creativity, and what you actually really want to do. Because when you're in a 9 to 5 job, you're so consumed about working and earning money, and you forget the things that you enjoy. I've always enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed reading, but I've never given myself the time. And now that I've opened myself up by traveling, it's just felt natural to start working on a book, right? And the book is going to be about essentially my life and what I've experienced and I have a whole nother story about my upbringing and facing death while I was quite young and family and traveling and adventure and healing. I think healing has been a huge part of this traveling experience too, like healing my wounds, like being away from my family has really allowed me to look at myself and where I need to work and where I need to more importantly heal. So I think yeah, that's part of the book and it's still in the early stages, Sristi. Yeah, there's not too much to talk about. I'd rather just do more action and less talk about the book because talking isn't going to get it written, is it?
Yeah, I have heard from lot of authors while they start writing a book, they write and write, and at last they don't like what they write, and they
Yeah.
have to just tear the paper down and start writing again. Like, have you faced such situation?
Yeah, I mean, because I try to journal, I journal pretty much every day in my diary, and I try to write every day. And so, um, yeah, there are a lot of pages I look back at, and although I don't rip them out, I look back at it and think, God, that is cringe, or oh my God, like what the heck? But I think it's important to realize that when you're wanting to rip something out, or when you're looking back on something, like it's teaching you so much, right? Like that was you writing that, um, that was your creation. So it's always good to kind of have that emotion. And um, yeah, I think writing has been a huge benefit in my life, especially while traveling as well, because um, you just get to process things, like process all these new experiences, and you can reflect on it too. Like journaling, I think, has really been a cornerstone and stepping stone in my life to better understand myself. If I was to say two things that have helped shift my mind and my life for the better, I would say meditation and I'd say journaling. Um, because journaling just allows you to express all the things that you're feeling, express all the things that you're thinking, um, and you just put the pieces of the puzzle together when you journal. And also Jordan Peterson, I'm not sure if you've heard of Jordan Peterson, a famous psychologist. He said the best way to become articulate with your speaking is to write, to just write, and you'll learn to speak better. And so I think that's really helped me as well.
Then, like, what sort of preparation should a person do, like, while they start to choose a nomadic lifestyle in terms of finances? Like you told, like you did a random choice to have a nomadic lifestyle, but while people should prepare, like what sort of preparation they should do in terms of finances, in terms of emotional handling, in terms of resource, like what's your suggestion to those people?
Yeah. So it's a great question, Shruti. I think there's a few important aspects that you need to take care of, right? And that's the number one is that you want to clear yourself of all your debts. You want to make sure that you're not paying any debts or you have any debts to pay. Like I remember before I left my phone bill, right? Like I was going through so much drama with my phone bill, like because it was on a plan, and I was getting so angry and agitated because I'm like, I just want this phone bill to be over so I can go traveling, and it was so much stressful because the last thing you want to be doing is when you're traveling is like, oh, now I need to pay this much money for this phone bill when I'm traveling. So clear all your debts. I think try and remove yourself from all like the things that you don't need as well. Like if you don't need it, either sell it, put it in storage, or get rid of it. Like um, traveling allows you to live a very minimalistic life. Like my life is in a bag right now. Everything that I own is in a bag. So it really makes you think about what's important to you. Like for me, half my weight when I'm getting on a plane to board is my books, right? So I need to take like least amount of clothes, like, and I realized, oh, my books are important to me. My journal is important to me. I'm not going to leave that behind. So, um, another important thing is to set a date. Put a date in mind. Book a plane ticket for that day. Give yourself time in advance, obviously, but book a plane ticket on that day and say, I'm going on this day, regardless. And just make the decision and do it. Like, um, and make it nearly impossible for you to cower out or to not do it. So, like, um, sell like if you want to live a nomadic lifestyle, this is quite extreme, but for me, like I sold my car as well. Like this is before the travel, but I sold my car, and like I was riding to work, and I was grateful to be living at home, so I wasn't really having to worry about rent. Or if you're renting, you can just like give up your rent and put your apartment for lease. I think they're really important things just to make your life while traveling freedom. The less you have to worry about, the more you have to have fun. um, and when it comes to research, sure, you can do a bit of research. It just depends what type of person you are, but this will all unravel once you actually start traveling. But I think kind of the one thing that you want to look at is the weather. Like, is probably the most important. Like, what's the climate going to look like? Is it winter? Is it summer? What type of clothes do I need to prepare? But and also pack as little as possible. A question I really like to ask myself when packing is, in the worst case scenario, will I need this? And that really allows you to pack what you need, because you'll find that you just want to pack stuff that you don't need and you don't use. Like for instance, I just went to the Pyrenees mountains for 6 days, right, by myself, walking through the mountains. Really amazing, immersive time. I didn't speak to anybody for multiple days, and you realize by just practicing that you'll realize it's like a game, right? The more you do it, the more you realize that you don't use. Like for this trip, I realized I didn't need to take aluminium foil because I didn't use it. So next time I go, I won't take aluminium foil because the thought was to cook potatoes in the aluminium foils on the fire, but that happened. So next time I won't take that, and it's the same. Don't be scared of the process because it's just about practice. That you will get better at learning what to take and what you need.
Like some people say that they have got lots of opportunity because there are business booming and they want an influencer, and they are using the nomad people as an influencer and they are happy to do it. And some nomad people said me that I am not going to have a nomad life because I am not able to handle my emotion, so I am going back to normal life and have a normal lifestyle. Like,
Very true, Srishti, that it's difficult and there is a lot of emotional stuff that comes up, right? And it's okay that if you need to go home, like just because you're traveling doesn't mean that you need to travel for the rest of your life and going home is a failure. Like, that's not true. You're allowed to go home. You're allowed to take a break. Like, when you go traveling, it's not about going traveling for as long as you can and making yourself suffer. Like that's not the point, right? Like the point is to enjoy yourself, to experience new things. But yes, I definitely agree that there is a lot of emotional stuff. Like you will miss your. I miss my family. I miss my dad. I miss my sisters. I miss my dog. More importantly, I miss my dog so much. But you learn. It gives you valuable life lessons. Like for me, I realized that one day my dad's gonna be dead. One day my dog's gonna be dead, and I'm gonna have to spend a lot more time than 6 months without seeing them. So it's good practice, right? But it's tough emotionally. But it's preparing me for what's to come. Um, and like I said, with the train station, there's a lot of stressful situations. And I've put myself in a lot of unnecessary stressful situations because I've lived very in the moment, spontaneous, and quite sporadic at times. And that causes stress because it's not stable, right? So, um, but let's think of it as in a practical way. A really good way that I've felt to deal with my emotions while traveling is to make yourself as comfortable as possible. Because when you're traveling like we do, right, it's very uncomfortable. You're on the move, you're meeting new people, things are changing so much. So you need to give yourself some sort of comfort. So for me, I realized that the things that you want to try to make as comfortable as possible is a good night's sleep, food, and just some sort of nature, right? Just to make yourself feel comfortable because that's so important. You're already so uncomfortable. And if you're not giving yourself basic needs to just relax and reset, then you will just keep building on that stress, and then it will become too much. Like I remember some of the best decisions I've made while traveling. And this is the challenge, right? Because travelers in their mind, especially me, we know that there's not an influx of money coming. So you have in your mind a limitation. I can't spend so much money. And you don't spend money on things that you feel as though isn't needed. So you're like, oh, I won't buy that good piece of bread, or I won't buy that nice nutritious meal. I'll just buy this little cheap, you know, meal, or I won't get that nice bed. I'll, try to sleep somewhere uncomfortable and cheap. I'm not saying splurge and spend too much money, but spend the money. Like it's good to have comfort where you can. Like some of the most best decisions I made was after a big travel, after really stressful times. Was okay. I'm just gonna book myself not not a not a luxury room, but just book myself a nice hostel where it's a nice comfy bed. You get a good night's sleep, you rest, and then you're ready to go again. And I think that's important in life, just in general. Just like yeah, buy yourself good food, give yourself a good night's sleep. It really helps, I think. And when you're traveling, it just makes it more clearer, you know.
and like, how old are you? And like, what's your dream after 5 years?
Yeah, yeah, okay. So
I
see,
really want to know about it.
I'm 22, Shristi. And in 5 years, my boss asked me this question, right? Before I left, he's like, what's your goal in 5 years? And I said, oh, if I wouldn't be traveling, but in 5 years, Christy, I think hopefully we'll be in the midst of a psychology degree and learning how to actually practically and professionally help people. Um, I'd like to probably, have a life partner by then. um, and yeah, be making inroads to make good change. When it comes to specific things, I don't really know, Shristi. I guess that's why I'm traveling, right? Because I'm trying to figure things out.
Okay, Jayden, it was so great talking with you. Hope we will have a great nomadic lifestyle and you will travel the world. And I hope your book will be published soon and I can read the book and I will know about the travel journey of yours on your book. It was great talking with you, Jayden. Thank you so much for your time.
Again, so much for giving people a platform to express themselves. It's been so much fun, really. An absolute pleasure, Shristi. Dhanyavad. Fedi Batola.
Thank you so much, Jayden. Thanks for talking the Nepalese language at the end. I really loved it. Because I'm from Nepal and you are half Nepalese, isn't it? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
It's been a
Bye.